Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Alecia Warneke with Grey Roots Podcast. I am excited to be here with y'all today. Thank you for joining us. I have got Kathy Eggers and Kari-Oakley Miller, lovely co-hosts with me today. Today is I love today. Many of y'all that know me, I am a planner. And so today is all about preparing a plan, right? We talked about the holidays are coming. I know that creates a lot of stress for everyone. Even if you're in a good space, sometimes that can create stress. And so today is all about creating a plan for you before you get into that space of being around family, in-laws, all those things, right? So, when we were raising our kids, we were taught that a really a great way to discipline your kids is to make the plan first. Decide what it is that they have to do or have to obey. What are the rules? And then when they break the rules, what are the consequences? And decide that ahead of time so that you're not making decisions while you're emotional and kind of in the throes of everything, right? And I think that's a great idea for the holidays with in laws when emotions can get high and words fly out of our mouth and we're like, what am I going to do with this? So today is all about preparing a plan for that. And then just press play, right? Once you already have the plan, then when you get to that point and this XYZ happens, then you just push play and you execute the plan. So, how are you ladies doing this morning? I know I kind of gave like a bit of like, blah. Here we go. Here's what we're doing. Everybody doing good?
Good.
Yeah? You're
Yeah.
good. You're good. Do you guys have any experiences that where you have either kind of lost your temper, patience, anything like that in a family environment with family members around holidays or other times, right? Like where maybe there wasn't a plan there and you're already frustrated and you walk into something and it doesn't go the way that you had hoped it would have if you maybe had something in place.
Yep. I know for me being a parent,
Yeah, we can hear
single
you.
mom of 5, I had to be ahead of the game because I wasn't for so long. And so we started these powwows at night and being like, okay, kids, here's tomorrow. Here's what everybody's doing. What's your schedule? Like kind of and it would grow as they would grow. But I wouldn't do that all the time. And so later on, my kids would tell me that Saturday morning, they would get up on Saturday morning almost afraid because I would usually spring on them something they were doing. Today we're doing yard work or we're going here. And so I didn't let them know ahead of time. And they didn't like that. They didn't like just waking up not knowing what was happening for that day. So I had to learn to be like, okay, they appreciate and it lessens the chaos and the reaction. So I guess kind of as we're learning today to plan, learning to respond rather than react. And definitely as parents, we want to do that. And as we talk about this topic today, learning how to do that in the holidays with extended family. Yes, huge advocate of this idea. Kath, I know you are too.
Yeah, and I was gonna say for me, like going to someone else's house for Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner, I am just my personality. If I tell you we're gonna serve the food at 2 o'clock, I mean we are dishing it out at 2 o'clock. It doesn't mean 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, maybe 6 o'clock. It means 2 o'clock. And so when I go somewhere and I'm taking all my kids in tow and they're telling me they're going to feed these kids at 2, we're going to be able to feed the kids at 2. So I've planned everything around that, right? I made sure they had a snack so they could make it till 2. And then 2 comes and there's no food. I might have lost it a couple of times. Now, I mean, I didn't lose it obviously and storm out and go home, but I was definitely frustrated on the inside of, wait, my kids are starving because then they're hungry. And often when kids are hungry, what happens? They lose their marbles, right? Because their sugar
Yeah,
drops
they're
and they
cranky.
start acting out and they're cranky, right? And I do have some that have low blood sugar issues. And anyway, so I definitely over the years have found myself being impatient as a guest to in-laws' homes or even my mom's home, because she was the queen of, I mean, I'm going to say we're eating at 1, but that could mean 3 or 4. And I just don't typically run my household like that. So that would be a little bit frustrating for me.
Yeah. And I can say, like, on the other end, I've definitely been on the other end where I'm like, okay, we're going to have dinner at, say, 4 o'clock. And then something goes sideways and the turkey doesn't get in or it's not cooking like it's supposed to. And then all of a sudden we're eating at 6 and I got cranky people. Yeah. So I like stuff like that. Like an easy fix in my mind as a mom who's going to a house, right, would be, hey, let me pack so like if dinner isn't ready exactly when they say, maybe I pack some things for them to eat. Maybe I pack some,
Mm,
you know, little beef sticks or nuts or whatever, like whatever your kids, whatever little snacky things to kind of tide them over. And maybe if you are a host and you're not the best at planning your time to be exactly, serving, or even if you are and something kind of doesn't go the way you planned it to go, maybe you have some little snacky things out for people to kind of nosh on
Mhm.
before the whole meal is ready so you don't have cranky guests. So that's kind of the thing that I'm talking about. But now let's shift that to the family members, right? Because that's something
Yeah.
like the food, right? Everybody's got food, but everybody has family too. And typically, the thing that makes this holiday and others stressful is comments that people make that we've heard, right? Other people's kids and how different parents are parenting differently. You might have one set of parents that says, no, you have to sit here and you're going to sit there with the napkin on your lap until they tell you you're served. And then another parent has like, yeah, they've got, they have lots of energy. They're just boys and they're like jumping all over the host's furniture, right? So, how do we deal with all that and make a plan so that it's less stressful for us, right? So, let's talk about some of the
Yeah.
things that typically come up. Carrie, did you have something?
I did. This reminds yes, my sister-in-law, she had kids that are older than my kids, and so I've always watched and learned from her. And one of the things I saw that she did, like as far as the kids and if you have little kids and you're going to somebody's house, not depending on that person or that place to entertain your children. Oh, I hope they have toys for my kids, or I hope they have something for my kids to do, or usually they don't, or whatever, like to plan for that and to maybe can't come with a bag or something with things for your kids to do. And she was so good at this. And so I watched her. And so that, if it is an environment where there is more people usually and the kids get a little bit overwhelmed of family members they haven't seen in so long, they know that they can go, it's okay to go off in this corner or go somewhere and sit on this table and do these activities and it's fine. And that almost brings them comfort to let them know that you can go do this, right? Like this is overwhelming. And so it was to bring some things for my kids to do when we were going to a place like that so that I wasn't relying on the place to provide that for them.
Well, I was going to just add to it. And if you're unsure about like even the food, will they have food that you would typically feed your children? Go ahead and pack that. I mean, Alicia mentioned the snacks,
Mhm.
pack some snacks, but you might want to go ahead and just pack some, protein. And if you need something with, to guarantee the nutritional value, maybe you go ahead and pack that too, or offer, to the host, hey, I'll be happy to bring these things for the kids. And, how else can I help? But I'll do that. I think any of that planning and prepping you can do that eliminates the surprise, no, they don't have things for my kids to eat, to play with. But if you kind of be a part of that planning, I think you can help that. And that will, in the end, ease your stress when you go to these
Mhm.
places.
Yeah, on the topic of food, right? That brings up a lot of things. Some kids are allowed to have dyes, some kids aren't allowed to have dyes. Some kids have to be gluten-free or like sensitive to gluten or different things like that. And I know from what I've heard from different daughters-in-law, like that can be a point of contention, right? Because mother-in-law doesn't really understand what the point is. We were fine. We ate Twinkies. I don't see what the problem is. It's Thanksgiving, right? And you kind of get that feedback, which to be honest isn't kind. It's just rude, right? I mean, like, okay, so they did it different. Great. You did it different. That doesn't mean that they can't choose how they want to do it. And just realizing that they are doing the best that they can for their kids, right? It's not because they're trying to be disrespectful mothers-in-law to your cooking. But yeah, like bring some things, bring some things that your
Mhm.
kids like that are within that realm of what you allow them to have. And I know this can be kind of touchy, but maybe, if you're able to have a conversation before Thanksgiving, have that conversation with your mother in law, like, hey, listen, we've noticed some behavior issues with little Johnny, and we're really trying to see if dyes are affecting that. So we're really trying to eliminate any dyes that are in his diet. So I don't want you to think that we don't like your food or anything, but I am going to bring some things that he can eat because we really like every time he eats dyes, it seems to trigger XYZ. Right. Have that conversation ahead of time. Let her know that, like, hey, and also, like, hey, is there anything else that, like, I can bring and I can make it so that he's, it's okay for him to eat based on what we're trying to do with his diet? I mean, maybe you can whip up a crazy good gluten-free pumpkin muffin recipe like Kathy did for us the other night. they were delicious, right? Who doesn't want somebody to bring
Mhm.
some extra yummy stuff? So I think that can be a good plan too, right? Bring things that your family can use and eat, entertain the kids, all that stuff. What other kind of barriers do we run into on holidays, Thanksgiving in particular, ladies? What have you bumped into? We didn't do a whole lot with other families because we lived far away. So we mostly just did our own thing and the kids just fought with each other. That was about it.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
inevitably there's comments. I don't care what family, somebody somewhere is making a comment that is not encouraging, whether it's about the children, whether it's about you,
Mhm.
you know. And I think you just have to have a plan for how are you going to handle those comments? Are you going to say something back? Are you going to let it roll off? Are you going to keep score? I mean, what is your plan going to be? But if you have a plan, I think that helps. Like if you have a plan before it gets emotional, like if somebody says, wow, he isn't reading yet, or really, my baby was talking at, 6 weeks old. They were saying full sentences because they're gifted. I'm sorry, yours isn't gifted. How do you have a plan of how you're going to respond to that? Are you going to put a pie in their face? Are you going to say, that's amazing, good for you? But I think if you even have kind of those standard comebacks, that helps ease your anxiousness in those moments.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's to say nothing, but I think
Right.
deciding that before it happens helps.
For sure.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
like the expectations, right? Like if you go in like you've had this is like your 10th Thanksgiving with this family, right? And you kind of know what the lay of the land is going to be. Grandma's going to
Yes,
say
who's
something
gonna
about, well,
say
my
what?
kids always sat still. And well, I don't understand why you can't. I don't understand this gentle parenting, or whatever comments they're making, right? Make a plan for how you're going to handle that. And maybe even, I mean, I don't
Mhm.
know. I get caught talking in front of the mirror all the time, talking through stuff, what I'm going to say. What are some Kathy, I feel like you are so good at this. What are some things, some phrases that they can use to kind of diffuse a situation? They'll kind of keep their boundaries, right?
Yeah.
You got any good
I
ones for
mean
us?
I think you can say things like, "That's interesting. Well, that's something to think about. That is, hadn't seen that before." Wow, you are pretty curious about that. I mean, you try and remain lighthearted in your responses. That is diffusing, but keep them short and simple. And now if it's something that you genuinely are curious about, it's okay to say, tell me more, unpack that for me, help me understand what you're thinking. If you want to get into a dialogue and a conversation, but if you
Yeah.
don't and you're just trying to nip it in the bud, then I would say something like,
Mhm.
that's interesting. That's an
And move
interesting
on.
way to think of that and move on. I wouldn't, you don't have to have a deep conversation about everything. Or if it's something,
And I
now
think not
I will say if someone comes at my kids, then I tend to,
right,
that's
right.
when my ugly comes out. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
Yeah.
My mama bear is she's pretty vicious. And I probably would come back with some, maybe you should just look in the mirror. Or, I really wouldn't say that, but I'd think it.
Mhm.
So
Well, bless your
I just
heart.
think yeah, yeah, huh.
Yeah.
That's yeah. So I do think you have to know your audience, know who you're talking to, and you know if that's an uncle that you're close to or an aunt you haven't seen in 5 years and won't see again. You know if that relationship is one you're trying to work through and on, or if that's one you don't care about. I mean, and I, of course, I'm not encouraging you to be unkind. I want you to be kind, but that doesn't mean you have to sit and entertain someone saying ridiculous things to
Yeah.
you. You just don't.
Yeah.
Right.
And, get up and move. Go sit somewhere else.
Mhm.
Remove yourself from that situation is
For
okay
sure.
to protect your
Yeah.
I think
peace.
that's a great yeah, I think that's a
Absolutely.
great way to establish boundaries or even, like, practice boundaries, right? Someone's saying things to you and maybe they're jabbing, maybe they're not, "Excuse me a minute. I'm gonna go in the living room." Remove yourself, right? You can't control if they're gonna say anything, but you can absolutely control if you stay there and engage.
Wait, along those lines, where you can think about it ahead of time. If you are the daughter-in-law and you're married, for you and your husband to talk about timing before you even get there. What is your timing? How long are you staying?
Mhm.
Do you agree? Do you not agree? So that you're not trying to give him looks across. And we've talked about this before. You're not trying to give him looks across the living room like, I'm
Do
ready to
the
go. I can't do this. Yeah, like you just agree on, okay, we're going to go and we're going to stay for 2 hours. And you can just, now you know and are preparing ahead of time. All right, I can do this for 2 hours. I can stay here for 2 hours because I know we're going to be leaving. But sometimes if it's this open ended time, it's like, I can't. And then it gets to a point of you maybe saying something you shouldn't say or having certain feelings towards somebody. So that's something you can do as a couple. And then flipping it from the mother in law's perspective to plan ahead. Okay, if you're the one, we're the ones that do it, and you're doing the invite, what are your expectations? What are our expectations that we are already putting on them to show up, to engage in the games that we might have planned that are going to be so fun? Or, be careful of our expectations. And I think that can ward off a lot of maybe hurt feelings or disappointment is just to go, you know what, we're going to provide this space for
Yeah.
them to come and let them come in however way they want to show up into this space. And it's this welcome area because if they feel, and we've all been there, I think, feel pressured to show up in a certain way, you just don't want to be there. Then they don't want to come. So as the mother-in-law, watch your
You don't.
expectations. And then the daughter-in-law, maybe talk about timing before you even get there, before you even ring that door.
And
Yeah.
maybe
That
let
is a
them know the
great
timing. Hey, mom, we're coming. If you're having lunch at 2, we'll be there about 1, but we've got to scoot no later than 3:30. So I didn't want you to
Yeah,
be upset when you see us heading out, but we've got to, we're going to head out about 3:30. So just want to give you that heads up so you can
great idea.
plan. Because also,
Yeah.
and I think if you're the mother-in-law and you're doing the planning, do try to stick to like if you say 2 o'clock, do try to do that because it is horrible. Say you're not a great planner and they have to leave at 3:30 and you don't even have lunch ready at 3:30. So this whole time you've just been running around, and your kids didn't even get to be a part of that. And so I don't know. I think everybody
Yeah.
needs to pitch in and put an effort for this day. And then that pushing play is easy, but that planning really has to happen well before you get to that door.
Yeah. And I think like Carrie, what you were saying is a great point. The expectations on both parts and communicate that, right? I remember Jeff's mom used to always, I think it was Christmas, Thanksgiving, I don't remember, one of the holidays, but a lot of they had 4 kids, and all of these kids' spouses' parents lived there too, like all the kids' in-laws. So a lot of them were going to Christmas, or let's say Thanksgiving, they'd be at one Thanksgiving from like 11 to 2, and then they had to go to the next one from like 3 to 6. And if they had split parents or divorced parents, that they had to visit all both sides. And it was kind of this thing. And by the time they got to Jeff's mom's house, everybody was full. And she would get so frustrated and upset because she had spent all this time making all this food, right? Well, couple things, right? If you're like, hey, listen, we have to do this first. I mean, no, if you're going to 2 events before you get to the last one, like let them know we're coming, but we're probably going to be full, right? So can we bring a dessert? Can we, bring something like that?
Hmm.
Don't put so much pressure on. That's a lot of food to eat. And it worked out great because eventually, I mean, she got frustrated and she was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just going to do desserts because that's all you guys eat when you come here. And you know what? It was the best thing because then
Bet.
we would just come in, and
Yeah.
that's where we hung out at the end of the night. Right. So it didn't really matter that we didn't have the turkey and the stuffing and all these things, because like we'd eat dessert, we'd, have some coffee, tea, wine, whatever, play games. Like that's kind of where all the action, all that happens. So yeah, don't be afraid to say like, hey, if this isn't working, let's be flexible. Let's switch it up. Like, what do you guys think about just doing desserts?
Hmm.
Are you cool with that? Like, you
Hmm.
know, talk about it. Talk about it. Make it good for everybody and try not to take it personally either way, right? If mother-in-law gets upset because you didn't eat her stuffing, it's because she's trying to she wants you to enjoy it. She spent a lot of time and effort making this for you. She wants it to be good for you.
Mm-hmm.
What about when it gets to the point where, like, you gotta go? It's just things are dissembling fast, and you just need to get your kids out of there and probably go home to save yourself and your kids from anything happening that might cause further damage. Like, how do you know when you get to that point? And then how do you execute that gently without seeming like you're like, "This is awful. I'm out."
Well, I think that's why you're planning the time that you're saying you're gonna stay, because if you and I would even say 2 hours. Let's give it that. And if it's going well and you want to extend it an hour, that's fine, but you have a definite out. Because if you're at an hour and a half and things are falling apart, you can inch it close to 2. You could survive
Yeah.
for close to 2 and then head on out. But if it's like you haven't made a plan, things are just falling apart, it really is so much of your tone. I would encourage you in those moments, there's not a lot of benefit to blowing up and just saying, I've had enough. We're out of here. I do
Right.
think as much as you can, you take some deep breaths and you try to get your own nervous system just to calm for a second before you make that exit. And I just think that's going to benefit everyone so much more. And it's not that I'm asking you to not be true to yourself and how you're feeling, but there is a time to just say, hey, you know what? This isn't working for us. We do need to get out of here, but you can still do it in a kind way, I believe. You can still
Absolutely.
say,
Leave
hey, we're heading
gracefully.
out. We're exhausted. It has been
Yeah.
fabulous. We love you. We'll talk later or whatever. Leave gracefully if you can. That's what I would
Yeah.
advise.
Yeah. Especially if you know the alcohol's been flowing as the evening goes along. So
Yes.
there's nothing
Yeah.
you're gonna say anyway. So just be on, get on out of there.
But get an Uber if the alcohol's flowing. Do not
Well, if
drive
they've been
home with your
drinking.
children.
Yeah. No, if they've been drinking,
Please
yeah.
please take an Uber home.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else that
Well,
you
along those same
ladies
lines, real quick,
have to add
rather
with this?
yeah. If you're the hostess or host and you know that maybe alcohol could be a problem and could cause issues or has in the past, maybe don't have it. It's your house. Maybe don't now if people bring it, that's on them, but if you know that that has caused issues in the past, we don't have to have that. So that might be something just to think about. You don't have to have that if that's been an issue. And there's people that are coming that tend to not handle themselves well and tend to cause problems when they start drinking, then don't have it. We don't need to have
There
that.
isn't, it's so popular now to be sober curious. So have a
Mhm.
curious Thanksgiving. Yeah. Could be cool and hip and serve all
Mhm.
your mocktails. If you just remember that the more you can plan before emotions get high, the better you're going to be. Whatever that is. I think that's just the bottom line with this subject. The more you can discuss with your partner, plan in advance, make sure everyone knows what the plan is because nothing ruins relationships more, in my opinion, than unmet expectations. And
Mhm.
I think
I agree
holidays
with
is a
that.
big one where we all have expectations. Everybody has expectations. So,
So we're better equipped to handle at least these situations that we've talked about so far. So
yeah,
good.
so good.
Right. For sure. So y'all stay tuned. Next week is good. We had like, hey, holidays are coming. Now we're preparing, right? Make the plan, talk to your spouse, partner, talk to your host for Thanksgiving and other family members and set reasonable expectations for everyone, right? And then next week is actually the week of Thanksgiving. We've got some good stuff for you on Tuesday, next Tuesday, 2 days before that'll hopefully put you the proper mindset for all this so you can really be successful and build those relationships, right? That is why we do this.
Yep.
We are
Yes.
Sounds good.
hopeful that we can change the narrative with mothers in law and daughters in law. It's always such a, like, right? I know, have that. But hard. It's like there's already this automatic, um, like electric force that just repels for 2 people, and what can we do to fix that? It doesn't have to be that way, right? And all you mamas of little boys that don't have any
Mhm.
girls, I know it's in your brain thinking this because it was in my brain thinking this. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, they're gonna leave, they're gonna go." No, but it doesn't have to be like that. You can have amazing daughters-in-law, and you can help
Yeah,
form that relationship with them and
absolutely.
really make it something
Yep.
beautiful that you cultivate. So stay tuned for next week. Y'all have an amazing week this week. Any comments, suggestions, questions, feel free to drop them on any of the social media. Follow us, like us on any of your streaming apps, listing devices, all that stuff, and share us with your friends. We are also planning some exciting stuff for 2026. So
Mhm.
we are looking forward to growing that audience and helping more people out. So until next Tuesday, gobble gobble. Peace out.